Hey everybody, welcome to Neil Talks. My name's Neil and it's time to talk QI. Another viewer request today. We're going back to Series F, and I think I've been steered towards this particular episode because it's got another major guest star. I think this is Emma Thompson's episode, which I'm very curious to see. This is episode 11, film, and from what I understand, Stephen and Emma were at Cambridge together and they were in the same theater troupe. I might be completely wrong about that, but I think I've heard that. And I think who else was in that group as well? There was somebody else famous in that group, and I'm blanking now. Was it Hugh Laurie? Maybe it was Hugh Laurie. Maybe the three of them went to school together. That's kind of crazy. I love that if that's true. But yeah, this one's been recommended to me quite a bit, so I'm very interested in checking it out. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. This is episode 11 from Series F, film.
Welcome to QI, where tonight we're obsessed with films and fame. The very famous David Mitchell.
Awesome, it's another David episode too.
Fantastically glamorous John Sessions.
I don't think I actually know him.
Hell's teeth, it's only Emma Thompson. And who's that bloke getting out of the car behind her? No, not him, the one behind him. You know, the curly hair. The one off the telly. Who is he?
Nice little bit of audience coaching there.
And that's all, folks.
Gotta love some Porky Pig.
Now, you're all very good at what you do, but what is this picture trying to tell you?
It's painted by Man Ray of Ingres Odalisque, and it's known as the violon d'Ingres. Famous French painter, Ingres, was a brilliant violinist, so it's like a very, very hotly pursued hobby, a violon d'Ingres.
Well, what you've done is here you've saved us a lot of time by being completely and 100% right in every particular. That's very good.
Was he coached on that question?
The neoclassicist French painter who died in
1864.
Are you going to be like this all the way through?
Yeah. I'm with you, Emma.
How would you like to have Cedric Gibbons nude on your mantelpiece?
It's not Stanley Gibbons, the philatelist.
No! Remarkable Hollywood figure, Cedric Gibbons.
Nude? Did he design the Oscar?
And in 1928...
Yeah, he designed
he was
the
asked
Oscar.
to design something. What
Gone
might
with
that
the
have
Wind.
been? No.
The Oscar.
Thank you. The Oscar. And not only did he design it, he won 11 of them. He was nominated for 36. Almost all Oscars, as you know, were won by Walt Disney, who won how many?
109.
26.
A bunch.
And all the rest went to Emma Thompson. Do you remember which one that was? Sense and Sensibility or Howard's Way? Howard's End.
Howard's Way.
I nearly said Howard's Way. But you were nominated for 3 others.
Yes.
Do you remember what they were?
Remains
In
of the
the
Day.
Remains of the Day, In the Name of the Father.
Best Supporting
I'm sure
Actress.
John
And
knows.
you were also nominated for Sense and
Oh, yeah.
Sensibility as Best
Okay,
Actress.
I've forgotten.
I
There
can
you go.
remember all the GCSEs I did. I definitely remember every Oscar nomination.
The best film one year was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Do you know what? They altered the Oscar to some extent.
They made him a midget.
They made
No, they made
one
7
big one
midget
and 7
ones.
little ones.
I mean, it must have been a grim year, because that is a boring cartoon.
I actually made a genuine Oscar. I went to the factory in Chicago where they were made.
I mean, I'm not being rude, but if I was winning an Oscar this year, I'd say, can I have one of the ones made by the professional? That was Stephen Fry balls that.
To be honest, I did a bit of buffing.
Right.
On the bum area,
And then
I
dipping.
bet.
Give it a good polish.
You bad. You're a very bad man. Yes, a little bit of... little... a good buttock flossing. Very...
So you didn't really make
No,
it. I mean, it's like the Queen pulling a pint.
Basically. That's more or less what it was like. And your other Oscar, of course, was for Best Adapted Screenplay for
Yeah.
Sense and Sensibility. I should have won that Oscar, as a matter of fact.
Actually, yes, you should.
Yeah.
You rescued it. It had transmogrified into hieroglyphs, into just... Still in my dressing gown, got in a taxi, went with the computer round to Stephen's house, sat it down and said, please, find my script. And I did it like that because I'm an actress. I don't know. And he said, oh, OK, but it took him 7 hours. And
Stephen's a computer nerd. Not a great computer nerd, but he figured it out. That's awesome.
No.
Probably what really happened was he couldn't do it. He thought, oh, shit, I can't
better
let on.
quickly write one.
I'll just write it. Much quicker if I just adapt the novel.
It's like that episode of Blackadder where he just tries to write the dictionary overnight.
I'll send the Oscar round tomorrow.
Thank you. Time to test your hearing. What is this a representation of?
It's Roy Chubby Brown eating a hobnob.
It's giving birth.
Oh, yes. Brilliant. Brilliant. That's exactly what it is. It's a lamb being born.
God.
We can actually see the sound being made. But there is a name to this science of sound effects as used in movies.
It's Foley.
What sound recordists need is clean dialogue. And all the sound effects, footsteps and other noises, almost all of that is done afterwards by someone called a Foley artist. If you close your eyes, let the audience see how it's being made, you see if... Alan.
When I open them, you won't all have gone.
I'm a lamb on my head.
You close your eyes, we'll let the audience
Genuine
and everyone at home
insecurity
see... So, what was that?
Guillotine.
How was it made?
With a guillotine and a person.
Oh, that's got to be the clopping horses. I mean, that's Monty Python.
And what was that?
Someone pretending
So
to be a
horse
horse.
clapping.
I mean, that sounds exactly like some coconut shit. That's a two-legged horse.
Yeah. What do you think this sound is?
It's fire. It's fire, isn't
Yes,
it?
fire, exactly. They used
We're taking off a shirt.
No. For the doors in Star Wars, electric doors. Oh. Paper being taken out of an envelope. Simple as that. Where have you heard this before?
Everywhere. That's the Wilhelm scream.
Tom and Jerry.
You might have heard it in Tom and Jerry.
It's a sound effect scream that has been library stocked and is used repeatedly.
Johnny, Johnny, Johnny.
Yeah.
It's been used in, it's estimated, about 140 movies.
Let's use it for a joke, then. We've got to use that scream.
You're kind of right. Anyway, it's believed to be a man called Sheb Wooley singing, and it starts on the note of C. There's Sheb Wooley. It descends through 4 semitones to G sharp. It's called the Wilhelm scream for some reason, and you can hear it again.
It's quite a warm scream, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's not...
Yeah.
No.
It's not as if you've been raped by a warthog or anything.
Pumbaa, down!
The most ubiquitous line of film dialogue, do you know what that was? It was used at least once in 84% of Hollywood productions.
Is it? Why are you telling me this?
The other one that really annoys me is, don't you die on me.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Bad feeling about this.
Yeah.
Oh, shut. The other one that really drives me mad is, I'm getting too old for this shit. Right. Apparently the line is, let's get out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of ubiquitous sounds, what's the good thing about an English accent in Hollywood?
You're always a villain, I know that much.
That's basically it,
Or you're
isn't it?
gay.
Or gay.
Or
often
a
Or a gay villain.
Or a gay villain.
Get an English villain to play a German villain.
Yeah.
Yes. And the extraordinary thing about Robin Hood, I mean, the two most famous Robin Hood movies, I suppose, are the Errol Flynn one and the Kevin Costner one, basically playing him as American. But
Kevin Costner, no bones
No,
about it.
absolutely.
Costner had no idea what he
straight
was
from
doing
the
with the accent.
Yeah.
I can't think it would be a better film if he was struggling with a kind of Dick Van Dyke Cockney accent.
With the last country left, they won't scream racism.
Exactly. We don't shout.
Nonsense. You can make Canadian villains all you want. We'd just be happy for the mention.
Alan,
Yes.
why do you always play villains?
I don't play villains. I play very interesting people.
Now, I'm going to give you a few English actors. I want you to tell me the villains they've played in Hollywood movies. Peter Cushing.
Show business.
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, then don't buzz.
Is it Tarkin?
Tarkin, very good. The Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah.
Christopher Lee. Yeah, the Hollywood movies.
Saruman.
He was a bad wizard in the Hobbit films.
He was a very bad wizard, wasn't he? He was an awfully naughty...
Is Christopher Plummer British?
No, he's Canadian.
Canadian, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
What did he see in the Baroness in the first place? She was vile.
Do you think it would have been better if they'd made the Baroness just obviously wonderful
Lovely.
and gorgeous? And you think, what's he
You know
bothering?
what she should
Why
be?
is he shagging the staff?
She should have been Mary Poppins, and then they could have had a Maria Mary face-off.
Like Alien versus Predator.
Yeah, yeah, I can get hat stands out of carpet bags. Yeah, well, I can defeat the Nazis. And then...
Yeah. I did a film with Julie Andrews, and it happened to be at around the time there was the total eclipse. We were filming on the Isle of Man, and we went onto a hillside to watch the total eclipse. And half the population of the Isle of Man, while this great cosmic miracle was going on, was staring at Julie Andrews. Going, what? The sun had gone out. We can't see her now. Wonderful.
Yeah, just our luck. That one day Julie Andrews turns up and makes it.
I watched it on the telly because it wasn't happening where I was. And the anchorman said, and there's our old friend Moon, very much getting in the way.
What does it tell you about an Englishman if he spells his name with a double F at the front?
He's Welsh, isn't he? Isn't that a Welsh thing? Jasper Ford?
Once upon a time, there was a posh man with the son who developed a stammer. And his name was Fuchs.
He'd have to conceal that fact from his son, because otherwise his son would try and pronounce both F's.
Oh, no! It was a mistake that was made in the 18th century by people looking at their family records, and the way a capital F was handwritten in records, it looked like two small F's, and there are people to this day who have the two small F's. Anyway, so yes, if your ancestors spelled their names with a double F, it meant they were either Welsh or semi-literate thickers, I'm afraid.
So the Welsh is a thing, too. Okay.
What on earth is going on here, please? Nothing to see.
Oh. Is this the first time?
Florence Foster Jenkins.
Very good.
She's actually a man.
She does see her breasts have tumbled rather far south, haven't they?
She used to rent out Carnegie Hall to do recitation.
Wanted to be an opera singer.
She wanted.
Yeah.
She was rich enough to rent
She could
out.
afford, but it became a cult, and she sold out. I mean, she could have sold out 10 times over the Carnegie.
Did she not notice the whole audience pissing themselves?
Yeah. She did, but she rose magnificently above it.
If you paid to see that show, you'd think at your first bit, you're laughing, she's terrible, she's terrible. But the joke doesn't really go anywhere, does it? By the end...
She did her own costumes. She would change them regularly, telling the audience not to go away while she changed.
I used to do that to him, actually. Try to make sure that he couldn't get out when I was changing.
You did?
Yeah, because it was very good fun.
She used to show me her breasts.
I could do it now. I'm not going to, but I could. I can make him scream.
No, don't.
A real, actual sort of scream of terror and fright, just by appearing nude at the top of his stairs.
Oh, he knows what's coming.
And doing what I like to do, which is locking all the doors at the bottom, so that when he tried to get out, he couldn't get away. And by the end of which, he was in a state of such extreme panic. And it's great to make someone very clever fall apart like that.
How did the ancient Greeks cover up the naughty bits on their statues?
They didn't, did they?
That's the point, they didn't.
But then the Victorians went round and chipped them all off, is that?
Chip them off.
Chip the
So
willies off.
They used to collect... I collect Greek willies.
Yeah. Well, there is a room in the Vatican which contains all the Disiecta Membra. A proud Greek statue of
He's about to
Hercules.
bash himself on the cock.
It's the 13th Labor of Hercules.
It was really the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation in Europe. They had all these people like Calvin. And suddenly, having been a very wild place, everything became incredibly... It was like a sort of 1950s America.
It reminds me of Ruskin marrying Effie Gray, and the great Victorian art critic didn't know that naked women had pubic hair, had hair. He thought they all looked like that. And so he didn't shag her for 7 years.
The sad thing about that story is it's not true.
The ironic thing now, Stephen, is that women generally don't have pubes anymore.
Well, indeed.
This is right.
I kind of have a slightly fond memories
It's
of
something...
pubes from the 80s. And the excuse, apparently, is that pants is far too small.
Big pants, nice bush. What's wrong with that? Seems fine to me. Do you wax yourself down there, Davies?
Do you want to see
No,
it?
I don't. No, I do not. Oh, God.
I know you do it.
She would. She'd envelop me in her
Lock the
skirt.
doors, lock the doors. Oh, you faint of heart, leave immediately. Not you.
Now, is this true bleaching bum holes?
Yes.
Oh, no.
The anal bleaching.
them.
To what end?
It looks cleaner.
Porn stars bleach their rusty sheriff's badge.
I suppose...
Wow.
At least,
So,
at least for a
the
porn
rusty
star, it's
sheriff's
tax
badge, I
deductible, I
love it.
suppose.
Yeah.
What's so upsetting about this film?
What are we seeing here exactly? Some kind of bug? Or is it smaller than that?
Outraged the cheese producers of the world.
Oh, it's Brazilian cheese and blue cheese.
It's cheese mites.
Cheese mites.
So that's what cinema was like in 1903.
I don't know what it did to the sales of cheese. Possibly it wouldn't have helped them, but it increased the sales of cheap microscopes. People became fascinated. I remember a documentary, this suddenly occurs to me, that your father, Eric Thompson, narrated, called something like The Life That Lives in Man.
Like billions and billions
Yeah.
of things in our beds all the time, even
Yeah.
if you do turn your mattresses.
I don't think turning a mattress is going to kill the thing. So it's like there's one of those adverts that sort of says there are more germs on your chopping board than on your loo seat.
Yeah.
To which the answer is, well, clearly that's fine then. I mean, we're not all dying or constantly having diarrhea. They're saying in the advert the very thing we are selling you is unnecessary.
Yes. How was Michelangelo lying when he painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel?
Didn't he not did it? He didn't do it, he just lied about it, he fibbed.
That is the sense of lying we wanted. He certainly didn't lie down to do it.
Did he jump up and do it a bit at a time?
He didn't. No, he's
More of a pointillist effect.
There's God with a bit of sort of swaggy stuff behind him. Now, that swaggy stuff, according to at least 4 professors, are absolutely convinced that that particular shape, do you know what it might be?
Human brain?
Female part?
For once in QI's life, we are not in the downstairs lady area.
Is it a brain?
Brain! It is at the transverse section of the sagittal area of the brain. And the suggestion is that his idea of God, one of God's greatest miracles, was, of course, the human brain. You know, there's a museum in Oregon which is dedicated to replications of the brain made of fabrics. A perfect brain with brainstem made by some American knitting person.
Are you sure that's just not the most unsuccessful attempt at a cardigan ever?
While our artists make every effort to ensure accuracy, we cannot accept responsibility for the consequences of using fabric brain art as a guide for functional magnetic resonance imaging.
Either you've got a tumour or they've dropped a stick.
What happens to a hedgehog if you remove its fleas? David.
It dies.
No, there is a myth to this effect, but it's not true at all.
I haven't heard that myth.
What mustn't you feed hedgehogs?
Bread and milk.
Exactly, bread and milk is a bad idea. People do it. It gives them diarrhea.
Really feed bread and milk to any mammal, including humans.
But there is a Radio 4 show
Oh,
that deals...
come off it.
No,
Well, you
it's true.
shouldn't feed humans bread and milk.
No, not
Oh,
really.
What do you mean, not really? It's absolutely demonstrably fine.
No, it's not very good for you.
Well, it's fine. Why is it suddenly a massive problem? Oh,
Yeah.
no, actually, we're supposed to live till we're 250. But no, we're eating all this poisonous bread and milk all the time. We can barely live past 98. It's ridiculous. Of course we're supposed to eat bread and milk. Not just bread and milk.
Oh, poor Alan.
No,
Don't
no.
bully him.
Except the celiacs and the lactose intolerance, but...
So, despite what you may have heard on Radio 4's programme...
Ah, yes, the unbelievable truth.
Exactly.
One of the unbelievable truths turns out unbelievably
Yes,
to
you
be
claimed.
not true.
You claimed.
Yeah, just people give you this shit and you read it out.
It's brilliant.
I've no idea what you mean. Now, Shakespeare mentions the football twice. How often does he mention the cricket?
He doesn't mention the cricket because it didn't exist then.
And neither did football.
Cricket certainly existed in the 16th century.
Oh, right.
In 1550, there's a mention of cricket, and that's...
Really?
before
You sure that's not
1660.
the small insect?
3 times he mentions the insect. You're absolutely right. But not the game. He never mentions the game, to be honest.
But the game existed back then?
That never, I said, was right, and I got massive...
No, you asserted on the 26th of May, Mr. Mitchell, that the game of cricket didn't exist in Shakespeare time. It did, although Shakespeare doesn't mention it. Yeah.
So is this whole round?
Let's just target David.
If you want to kill off the medium, then that's fine, but it brings a lot of people a lot of pleasure.
The game did exist in its day, despite what you may have heard on The Unbelievable Truth, the excellent, excellent Radio 4 programme.
Yes.
Now, what kind of hair do head lice prefer? Did you say clean hair?
Oh!
Any hair will do to a louse. They don't mind, as long as there's an adequate blood supply. What's the most depressing day of the week in research?
Monday. It's got to be
Yes.
Monday.
Monday.
What is it? Oh! It overwhelmingly is...
Tuesday.
No, oddly enough, Wednesday.
Furthest from the weekend.
In fact, there's a French joke. Why should you never arrange a meeting with an Englishman on a Wednesday? Because you'll screw up 2 weekends of his, because they think of us as very lazy. Yeah, I know.
Do they?
Do they? Yes. How...
We don't think they're lazy. We
No,
think they're
not
sort of
particularly.
cowardly, idiotic, and riddled with,
Disease-eating.
you know, venereal diseases.
Which popular film, made by the British multinational Innovia Films Limited, made more than 360 million this year, and made about as much the year before as well? You've seen it?
Not like some teach the Chinese English thing.
No.
360 million.
Celebrate.
Oh.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
You know the word lovey?
Yeah.
What do you all feel about it?
I mean, I'm not going to get as upset as some actors do. Some actors say, we do a bloody hard job of work. Dare they call us lovies? You know, I mean, that's a bit overdone. On the other hand, it's a bit tedious when, you know, the Daily Mail says lovey couple X, Y and Z or...
Do you know what the first citation of it is in the OED?
No.
It's you.
What?
I can't believe did I
Yeah,
invent
it's
the word?
you.
Oh,
Sometime in the 1980s.
Did I? I'm ashamed.
I don't know this usage.
This week's winner, ladies and gentlemen, with plus 4 points, is Alan Davies!
Really? I thought John was doing a little too much know-it-alling to not win.
In second place, a modest success on the art house circuit, John Sessions with 1. Garnering a few points at a festival you've never heard of, but a very creditable first appearance. Minus 10, Emma Thompson!
10?
Does that mean David gets the Razzie?
I'm afraid going straight to video with minus 15, David Mitchell.
This episode had a lot. It had someone very seriously embarrassing Stephen. I love when we get that personal history between one of the guests and Stephen, and obviously Emma has a great deal of it, and she wasn't afraid to pull it out and use it as a weapon this episode, so that was a lot of fun. You could see how uncomfortable Stephen was even just remembering what it was like, never mind having to actually deal with it. That was really entertaining. But what David Mitchell episode of QI would truly be a David Mitchell episode if he didn't go off on a couple of really good rants, going off on germs, going off on whether we should eat bread and milk. That's the David Mitchell I know and love. I love his indignance. It's just, it makes me happy. There's something about QI, and I've been trying to figure it out for months now, exactly what it is. Because there are some episodes which are genuinely hilarious, like laugh out loud, bust a gut funny. And a lot of episodes have moments like that, but I find myself kind of permanently smiling throughout the duration of an episode, whether it's actively funny at that moment or not. And I think there's just sort of this contentment that washes over me with this show. It brings me just this comfortable level of satisfaction, whether it's being particularly funny at that moment or not. So I don't think it's about the humor per se. Yes, there's enough humor that's certainly some of the appeal, but I think it's broader and greater than that. I think there's something else about this show that's just so comfortable and satisfying. And it's tough to put a finger on exactly what that is, but it's real, and it's such a nice watch for me. I watch QI and I'm just in a good place. I don't know any better way to put it than that. So thanks to all of you who recommended this episode in particular. If there's another episode out there that you want to see me check out and I haven't seen it yet, please leave a comment, let me know, I'll add it to the list. I've got a big list. I'm working my way through it. I promise I'll get to everything that's been recommended eventually. It may take a few weeks or months, just because I only do one of these. I only do one a week here, but yes, let me know if there's one you want me to see, and I will get to it. I promise. And until next week, everybody, take care, stay healthy. We'll see you soon. Cheers.